Welcome to the Gold Standards official season predictions episode brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. That is Emma Lingan. I am Braden Gall. Good afternoon, Emma. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. Hockey season is here. Mitch says game day eve. There we go, Mitch. Good to see you guys. If you want to jump into the comment section, please do so. I'm going to get Emma to make all of her official season predictions. We're going to bury him in a time capsule, and then we're going to dig him up in March and say, look what you said back in October. We're going to do that today on the show. Are you excited?
My favorite things.
Yeah, lots of stuff to get to.
Not. I hate being wrong.
Look, here's the deal. Brady Martin, we got to talk about it. We've got to talk about the young players on the roster. We've got to talk about the roster decisions. I want you to talk through with all of us what has to happen for Andrew Brunette to find success and what happens if he doesn't, and what happens, where's the record at? How does he stave off the hot seat conversation? You'll hear from Andrew Brunette. I had a chance to talk. We had a chance to meet with him for just a few moments today after practice. It looked like a very lively practice there today over at the Sportsplex, soon to be renovated Sportsplex, at least. So lots of stuff to get to. Official predictions for the Central Division as well. So lots of stuff to get to. Logan, Brady Martin will have 80 points, but in the Sioux. So there you go. Look, he probably we'll talk about Brady Martin. Obviously, we'll discuss Brady Martin. Sinkers Beverages, everybody. 4-time liquor store of the year. #1 beer fridge, craft beer fridge in the city. That's not my opinion. Those are as voted on by all the Nashvillians. Those are just facts. Search Uber Eats. Have the booze delivered directly to your house. Search Sinkers Beverages. Sign up for the in crowd. I'm asking you guys to do a lot of things, but it will all benefit you. I promise you. You will be a better person if you shop at Sinkers Beverages. Emma, I took my daughter to Shotgun Willie's Barbecue on Sunday last week, because she is obsessed with his ribs. And I feel like I'm raising her correctly.
That's better. I thought that sentence was that you took your daughter to the #1 craft beer fridge in the city. And I was going to say, oh, that's a choice. But, who am I?
My kids have been with me to Sinkers Beverages before. Is that inappropriate?
No, but I mean, the way that you were telling this story, like you did it for her, like, oh, I took her to the liquor store because she really wanted to go.
She really wanted a glass of Pinot last night, and I said, who
among us,
Yeah, right. No cap. The other one's birthday is this week, so I might have to take her to Sinkers. Who knows? Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, though, is probably more likely because they love the ribs, they love the brisket, they love the side items, and she got on that little mechanical bull over there, and it starts working. And Shotgun Bill came over and gave her he did something with the machine that made it work without having to put any money in it. And I was like, well, that's awfully kind of you. I could have given you the 50 cents. But it starts working, and she looks at me completely ungratefully and says, "This is all it does, Dad?"
Well, maybe if you had paid the 50 cents, it would have done a little bit more.
Maybe you're right, but I look at Bill and I go, "Is that all it does?" he's like, "Yeah, that's all it does." But the kid loved it. The kid likes it. So you know what? There's stuff to do there. So go to Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Sinkers Beverages, 2 great sponsors that keep us going. Check out Lower Broad Hockey. I had a chance to talk with. I'm very fascinated. You know me. I'm fascinated by like the human interest side of sports and athletics and culture and locker rooms, and how we find success, how leadership resonates, communication. I'm fascinated by all these things, and I do think there is a very different type of generation of athlete coming into the NHL and other sports as well. Their habits are so different than they were 20 years ago, and because Steven Stamkos has been in the league for 110 years, I thought I will talk to some of the veteran players and get their opinions on what it was like to integrate as a young player into an older locker room, and what it is like to be the older player integrating younger players now that the younger players say very strange things, like all the weird words that I use on the show. But I'm just trying to keep it a buck, Emma. Just trying to keep it a buck. So I'll have a story for you guys over at Lower Broad Hockey. Talked to Brady Shea and Stamkos about that. So I'm working on sort of generational divides and sort of the complications of building a locker room in 2025. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. So stay tuned, lowerbroadhockey.com. And as we've discussed, Emma, you are neither old nor young, right? You're just like right in the middle.
I'm a proud millennial, but honestly, I feel if I did gravitate more towards one than the other, it would definitely be old. I'm definitely old. I
Yeah.
think this
Good for you.
this past weekend in particular has taught me that I am not as young as I once was. Not old, but I'm not as young as I once was. Takes me a little bit longer to kind of bounce back.
Well,
But
lean in is my only advice. Lean into being old and crotchety. It's so much more fun. What happened this weekend?
staring into the skid. No, I just like I didn't sleep for a couple nights, and it's still like days later, days after having gotten sleep, I'm still not fully recovered. So, and it's just yeah, I'm like, wow, my body just does not bounce back the way it used to.
Uh,
So,
Josh says, "Who's going to make me visit Sinkers more, the Titans or the Preds?" That remains to be seen. Have you ever had a 2-day hangover?
not a 2-day, but I would say that my hangovers now are a solid 1-day situation, like full day.
No longer like one mimosa and I'm better by noon.
No. Even when I was in my prime, I was never really a hair of the dog person. Like it never really.
It's
But now,
always last resort. It's like I'm gonna take the
yeah,
Advil, I'm gonna pound the water, I'm gonna try to eat a greasy burger. There's like 12 things I'm gonna try, and then I'm like, shit, nothing's working. I'm just gonna have a Bloody Mary.
yeah. Now, I mean, like it's like a full 24-hour
Yeah.
cycle of the hangover. So if I have one night, then I am down for the count the entire next day. It's very
Well,
unfortunate.
it'll be interesting to see what kind of hangover the Nashville Predators have this season. See what I did there?
Mm, very nice.
They don't want to talk about last year. Here was Andrew Brunette today after practice talking about how excited they are to get the season started.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody, we don't want to talk about last year, but I think we had a little bit of time to decompress as a group. And we came back with a lot of energy, just speaking of leadership group basically all summer. You could tell after, we kind of took a little bit of break and we got back together that the energy level was high. They were excited. Nobody likes where we were. We have better to give, and now we have an opportunity to throw the boat back in here and see what we could do. And it's an exciting time of year. Your first game, it's going to be fun to watch the excitement level of some of these young guys with their first NHL start. So really good vibe now, but just a feeling. So we got to work as hard as we can to keep this feeling.
Oh, we're on vibes, Emma. We're on vibes. No, it's a very exciting time of year for fans, for media, for players, for coaches. And I understand that they had to go through all the things they went through in the summertime to get to this point. But ultimately, my question for you is, and he's correct, there is a youthful exuberance around this team. And I think some of the older guys, talking to them, they are energized by all of the youth that is sort of being injected into the culture, into the locker room. Now, I want to get to all of those guys, and we'll get to all the expectations around those guys and season predictions. But I want to ask you first, what are sort of the benchmarks? How should we evaluate Andrew Brunette? What is is there a line in the sand? Is there a point in the schedule? Is there a number of wins or losses? What is the equation that needs to happen for Andrew Brunette to kind of keep himself out of hot seat conversation versus this is where he's going to slip into that conversation? Does that make sense? Like what do you need to see from the team?
Yeah, I think it also depends on who's having the conversation. Like again, I still maintain that Andrew Brunette is not actually on the hot seat. Fans think he is and that he should be after last season, but I think that that Barry Trotz is going to give him a longer leash here. I think that he's going to give him the full season. I don't see any reason that he doesn't last the full season. I mean, I know there are reasons why fans think he shouldn't last the entire season, but I'm just saying realistically, I think if you are trying to build for this team in the future and build a culture, all of that, if you really are pivoting towards this built that Barry Trotz had another one. He had another good one-liner on the radio yesterday. It's almost rivals the plan is in pen and the path is in pencil. He said, "We're not in a rebuild. We're in a build." Said we're in a build. So add that to the list. So if you really are focused on building for the future, then firing your coach in the middle of the season, I don't know. I don't see it. Your handpicked coach, I don't see it happening. So for me personally, I think a couple things have to happen. Number one, you can't start 0-5 again. You can't do that. Now, the first 5 games do not dictate your entire season usually, but for this team, they cannot afford to get off to another bad start. Can't happen. I'm not saying they have to go 5-0, though that would be nice, but I don't think they need to do that, but they can't lose their first 5. I also think by Thanksgiving, they need to still be in it, like be competitive, because last year they were out of it so early and they kept getting knocked back down. And so I think that by Thanksgiving, you still need to have a pretty good feeling about this team, at least what this team is. If by the trade deadline or by the Olympics, even by the Olympic break, I would say if this team still looks like it did last year.
Is that February? Is that right?
Yeah, February.
Okay.
So if this team still looks like it did last year, that's time to pull the plug, cut the cord, do what you have to do.
My first thought was Christmas, like around Christmas, going into Christmas. They need to be, and Josh says this too, and you said it too. It's like, are they competitive night in and night out? Do they look like a better team? Are the older players more acclimated to the system? Are the younger players showing progress? I don't think they have to be at 500 or above 500 or near 500. I think they need to probably near 500 probably is like the low water mark. If you go into the new year and you are out of it, I think he's going to be forced to make a change. The question is sort of, is that the right strategy? And in that interview, Barry Trotz said a lot of things about the role of the older players and the role of the veterans. And to your point about a build versus a rebuild, which, whatever. I could actually be convinced, and I know you've been on that side of the Andrew Brunette story for a while, like, hey, he's going to be given patience. He's going to be given a long leash. I could be on board if they hadn't gone and signed a bunch of players to win, quote unquote, that being patient and firing a coach doesn't really do much for a young organization with young players all trying to learn together. Like, I could see that the disruption is as hurtful as maybe a quote unquote bad coach or whatever might be to the development of young players. But that's not really what the plan was. And I'm okay with Barry Trotz saying this is what the plan is, but that is what we have been trying to figure out for like a year and a half now, which is, what is your plan? And I saw the chat on Lower Broad Hockey with fans saying, like, you expect us to believe that Steven Stamkos was hired for $8.5 million to mentor young players? Like, no, that's not what he wants to do with the last few years of his career. Same with Jonathan Marchessault, same with Roman Josi, same with Philip Forsberg, same with all these guys. And so I'm just curious, like, what is the plan? And are we okay with Barry Trotz switching plans? Because I think that's okay too, but you have to be convicted in something. Something has to be your North Star in all of this. And if you don't have that, then you're kind of just flying and reacting. And that's not how a general manager needs to function.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before too, that the first year and a half or so, Barry Trotz has been very reactive to the way the things have gone, that it's very coach-like. It's like, oh, this isn't working, change it up. Or, oh, this is working, let's pour more into it. And so it's, like you said, pick the plan. You whatever the plan is, stick with it. Don't let an 18-game point streak deter you from whatever the plan is. And so I think that now what I will say is that Barry Trotz's messaging coming into the season this year is different than it was last year.
No doubt.
That being said, what we see on the ice needs to match what he is saying. He's saying, we're going to get the young kids in here. We're going to give them opportunities. We're building for the future. That's all well and good, but we need to actually see that, which again, they haven't played in games yet. So can't really speculate on that right now. But I think that all I'm saying is that we need to see a correlation with what he's saying and what we're seeing. So I think that the expectations are lower. I think, as they should be. But I think that the expectation should be still that this is going to be a better team than last year.
I don't know how it's not. Like, just based on like
Yeah.
statistical progression to the mean for
Law of
Saros.
averages.
Yeah, like, I mean, well, Saros is, his career averages are far better than what he was last year. He's not going to be, number 2 in the Vezina Trophy voting or whatever. The defense has to be better. The older players have to sort of progress to their career means, I would guess. Yossi's healthy, at least for now. And so, like, I think the whole thing is, like, it's almost statistically improbable to be a 68-point team again. And so I think, and this is kind of why I think Christmas, or at least around the end of the year, is sort of my benchmark, because I don't think you can, if Barry Trotz's vision for Andrew Brunette is, I'm committed to him being around the kids to build, 5 games shouldn't be the thing that changes your opinion on that, nor should 10. And I honestly don't really think that even by Thanksgiving, which I'm totally on board with them reevaluating at Thanksgiving, but if you get to, I don't know how many games they have before Thanksgiving. My guess is like 16, maybe 18 games, ballpark, about a quarter of the season, roughly. You probably get to 25 or 30 games by about Christmas time. And so I think I'm in that 25 game mark where if you want to see progress from young players, you probably need more than like a couple of weeks to see it. If you want to see all the things that we've been talking about that should progress to the mean, I think you need more than just 8, 10, 12 games to figure that out. I think you, if you're committed to Andrew Brunette being the guy. If you're not committed to Andrew Brunette being the guy, then pull the plug whenever you want. But that's not what he told us when he brought him back and all the things he's communicated in the summertime. So if you are committed, then you probably are going to be patient enough to make sure you have enough data on it being a failure, if that makes sense. If by Christmas time, all the young players have not gotten any better, the veterans are still underachieving, the shooting percentage is still way down, the defense is not handling the puck in their own zone, like all the problems that plagued the team last year, if it's all the same shit going into Christmas, I think you probably have to make a change. But otherwise, I'm okay being kind of conservative about it and giving it more time than maybe the average fan who's upset. Because I'm sure I can hear Kevin and Lop and Patrick and all you guys, Josh, you're like, yeah, we watched all of last year. We saw 82 games of this awfulness. We don't need to see any more. And I understand that. I understand where people are coming from on that. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, I think all of what we've seen from Barry Trotz. First of all, I just want to see Barry Trotz stick to one plan for more than a calendar year. Like, let's just pick a plan, go with it. It's going to be a little hard to do that now with the corner that he's kind of painted himself into with the current roster construction. I understand that. But that being said, I think, yes, you can have both. You can be competitive in the present while building towards like really going for it with your next core in the future. However, you can't give equal priority to both of those things. You can have both, but one of them needs to be the priority. And I think that you need to see this shift towards, okay, we're going to focus on the future. We're still going to try to be competitive now. We're not tanking. We're not doing any of that. But we're really putting all of our eggs in the next several years basket, not the right now basket. And I think that, again, what we see on the ice needs to correspond. It needs to correlate with what we're seeing. I just think with so many things that we've seen from Barry Trotz, a lot of the decisions that he's made, which not all of them have been objectively bad. I mean, some of them, it's kind of a mixed bag. But I think at the core of it, what we've seen from Barry Trotz with a lot of his decision making is it's all about his guys, the guys that he brings into the organization, with a very select few exceptions. But I think that it's all about, whether it's the coach, whether it's the players, the prospects, the draft picks, the free agents. I think that it's all about he wants those guys to succeed. And I'm not saying that he actively wants the David Poile era guys to fail, but it just seems like, I mean, why else are you going to nickel and dime Luke Evangelista for an entire offseason only to offer him the most standard contract possible for a player of his caliber? I mean, what's the deal with that? I don't think that whether it's Andrew Brunette, who is his handpicked coach, whether it's the Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, who were the big flashy free agent signings, or it's the prospects that he traded for or the prospects that he drafted, it's all about those guys. Like, that's who Barry Trotz wants to see succeed. And I just think that
So he hates Fedor Svechkov is what you're saying.
no, that's not what I'm saying. He's actually one of the few exceptions. But I think if you just look at, like, I mean, this year, you're paying Matt Duchene $6.5 million to beat up on your team in Dallas. Like, seriously? I just, all of this to me says, I think, it's very clear what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to bring, and I'm not saying it's an objectively bad thing. It's your team now. You want to take over, you want to bring in your guys. That's fine. But I think he thinks if he does it gradually enough that, I don't know, we won't notice. It just seems very much like it's gradual, but it's very obvious.
Gradual is not the word I would use to describe it. It was like, adios, Ryan Johansson. See you later, Matt Duchene.
That part wasn't gradual, but I mean, overall, I think like you leave John Hines on the hook for a while, then you let him go. You bring in Andrew Brunette. Now, I'm not saying that Andrew Brunette is the wrong guy and John Hines is the right guy. I'm just saying the way it all went down, it's very clear that, it's like, this is what Barry wanted for the organization, and that's fine. But I think now you have to look at what you have. And I mean, guys like, and again, I'm not saying that the pieces that he got rid of or traded away, with the exception of Dante Fabro, I'm still mad about that. Still mad about Fabro on waivers. I wouldn't be as mad if you traded him, but waivers is something else. So, especially with how the defense was last year.
I mean, being mad about I don't know, the fourth best defenseman being put on. I don't continue. I don't think you should be mad about anything, Emma.
No, I just like, I'm not still mad about it. Like, it keeps me up at night, but I think it's more of like I'm not still,
I mean, I don't think it was a smart move, but it doesn't affect my personal happiness or.
Okay, well then mad's not the right word. That's what I'm saying. That like I think it was not a good move. There are other moves that Barry Trotz has made that I'm like, well, it might be good, it might be bad. We don't really know yet. We got to wait to see it play out. But like, that one was just, I don't know.
That one was dumb. No, there's no question about that. Mismanagement of assets, says Brad. Patrick says Stamkos had 20 points in his last 20 games. We're not going to shout out it's all your fault. No, I think actually Keyser was on with Gover this week, and excellent interview by Gover with Cameron Reed 2 weeks ago. So go check that out. He had Keyser on this week, and Keyser was like, kind of like you, like if he's under 500 and they're playing poor hockey by Thanksgiving, there has to be a real difficult conversation that is to be had. And I look, I know we're having predictions here, and we'll get to Central Division picks. Like, I think like the team has to be better. They are going to be better. I think what matters is sort of like where and how are they better, and how much are they better. And we just don't know. And I think you and I did an episode a couple weeks ago where we thought this team was god awful 2 years ago. They made the playoffs. We thought this team was going to be great last year, and they were one of the worst. To think that any of us have any idea what's actually going to happen is like just flat out arrogance on our part. And so I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't wait to find out, though. And you want to know why I can't wait to find out? Because Brady Martin's in the lineup. Because Joakim Kemmel's playing on the team. Because they are giving the kids a chance to prove that they belong. So first and foremost, Emma, I know I was the one who said, let's go, Brady Martin. Let's do it. 9 games, sell tickets, have fun. Let's see what you got. You can always send him back, and it costs nothing, right? That's what they're going to do. So I think, number one, you should have extremely low expectations. Do not put too much on young kids to do too much right out of the gate, especially Brady Martin, even if he's playing center on the top line, which it appears they're going to try, which is fantastic entertainment. But treat it as entertainment. Treat it as we've got this asset in our farm system. Let's see what it looks like. If it's good enough for him to stick, then that is an extraordinary win for the organization. If he doesn't, that should be expected. I think you should expect him to go back after 9 games. I think you should expect him maybe even before that. Maybe if it's obvious he can't play at this level yet, then send him back. And that's okay too. So I'm your thoughts on Brady Martin being on the team, being on the line, being in the lineup. I think it's a reason for fans to be very, very excited, but I think you should come into that excitement with the appropriate perspective.
I agree. I don't think he's going to be here more than the 9 games. I don't think he should be here for more than the 9 games. And everything that you've said is correct about, you treat it as entertainment. You don't put too much pressure on him because Brady Martin is not going to be important to this team this year. He's going to be important to this team in a few years. And so you just keep perspective. That's all fine. And that's all true. But let's put that to the side for a second and talk about everything that we just got through saying about how this team needs to have a strong start this year. They need to get off to a strong start. They need to have better chemistry. They need to know where guys are going to be, what guys' different roles are. And I just feel like adding a wild card in there, even if it's only for 9 games, I don't think it's going to throw the whole season off, but I do think that it's not going to put you in the best position to get off to a strong start. I mean, I understand the thought process behind putting Martin in the lineup, and I don't think it's, factually incorrect or that it doesn't make any sense, but I just think it didn't need to happen right now. It didn't need to happen. And
what if he's good enough?
What if he's good enough to be
that he's there because he's good enough, not because they're selling tickets or, to your point, it didn't need to happen. What if he's just one of their better centers on the team?
No, and I think he is, but that's the thing. I don't think that he should be taking Ryan O'Reilly's job. Like, again, I'm not saying that he's taking it right out the gate and he's going to have it all year, but I'm saying that if the idea that you want, if you want to see how close he is, when he's playing against or with NHL talent, you want to see how close he is to getting ready, how, what's his offensive game look like? Can he keep up with the pace? Can he keep up with the physicality? Is he defensively responsible? I mean, you want to see all those things, but you could also see that in preseason. And again, I find a lot of this. Let me put my tinfoil hat on for just a second here. Just a second. And then I will take it right
It
off.
looks so good on you, though. Come on.
Okay, but let me just come with me on this journey for a second, because
I'm here.
I'm just going to state a couple things that I find interesting. Brady Martin makes the roster. Fine. Luke Evangelista currently cannot play because of immigration. And even if the immigration stuff was all squared away today, he's still not ready to jump into the opening night lineup. He hasn't been practicing with the team long enough. So that leaves, your open forward spots. I think we can all agree that one of them would have easily gone to Matthew Wood. Had he not gotten injured. I think he earned it with the way he looked in camp early on, and I think that would have made this whole thing cut and dry. It would have been Wood. Martin would have gone back to junior. But now, because you've let this thing go on so long with Evangelista, now he can't play. Now Wood is injured. Now, I'm not speculating anything about I don't think he hired a hit man on Matthew Wood. Like, I do think that Wood is actually injured. But I'm saying that you've now got this
reports. Emma Lingan reporting.
No, I don't think he put out a hit on Matthew Wood, but I think that it is just interesting to me that you were going to play this holding pattern with Luke Evangelista for this long, and now you're getting your kid, your top pick, into the roster, into the lineup, even if it's just briefly, while you were holding Evangelista at arm's length for so long. You're doing all of this just back and forth over this second or third line winger. But this brand new 18-year-old kid is going to come in and be the top line center. Like, it all feels a little weird to me. And I also do have to wonder if Evangelista, if there were more RFAs on this roster than just Evangelista, would Trotz have done the same thing with all of them? Or is it just like a wrong place, wrong time situation? I just think you've got enough questions with this team right now. Even if I don't think it's a bad idea to have Kemmel on the roster. I don't think it's a bad idea to have Weisblatt. I don't think it's a bad idea to have Wood if he was healthy. I think you've already got enough questions with those young players, and you've already got a hell of a lot more questions about the veterans from last year. So why would you add another wild card into this right now when you don't need him? Him being Brady Martin.
Again, I think the simplest answer sometimes is the one to go with, which is he's just good enough. But again, me saying, I just think I think maybe that's wishful thinking. Like, I could be totally wrong on this, but you saying he shouldn't play more than 9 games before watching him play a single game is also just wish casting to some degree. We both just think that what we think. He's going to go out there on Thursday night and show. My message to people is don't go out there and assume he's going to prove he belongs. I think you should go into it assuming what you think, which is I think you should assume this is a tryout. This is experience. This is him getting time and learning how to play the game at a professional level. And if any of it is good, that's house money. You're in great shape. If he sticks and they have to burn a year and he plays a full year in the NHL, that is the best possible thing that could happen to the Nashville Predators. So it's not like we can't just say, well, I think he should do this, or I think he shouldn't do this, or I think this, and you think, and that's all fine. That's kind of the job here on the show. But at the end of the day, whatever happens is going to happen. And if he's good enough to be on the team, that is a wonderful problem for Andrew Brunette to have, and for the team to have, and for fans to be excited about. Do I expect that? No. And that's kind of what my approach is, because I can feel myself like going objectively as like non-Predator fan. It is interesting what's happening with Brady Martin. Second youngest player in the history of the organization is going to make his NHL debut on Thursday night. If he scores a goal, I think he'll be, I think he's got a chance to break Scott Hartnell's youngest goal scorer in Predators history as well.
If he scores a goal, they will erect a statue next to Pekka. He is the golden child in this organization right now. So
right. And what I meant was if he scores a goal in the 9 games.
Yeah.
I didn't clarify that. The point is like it is already an interesting story, and I can feel myself. That is the thing I am most interested in. Not Juuse Saros, not Stamkos, not Josi. I am most interested in the number 5 overall pick being the second youngest player in franchise history. And I want to see what it looks like. And we live in a media ecosystem, Emma, and you know this, where we can't just be, I'm super excited to find out what happens. Right? Like, that's not how sports talk radio works anymore. And that, I think, I think that's my message to fans, is like, just like lower your expectations. And for the same for Kemmel and Weisblatt and Tanner Molendyk and Matthew Wood and everybody else, keep your expectations lowered, because it's a hard game. And then what they do deliver, if anything happens, it's a huge step in the right direction and a positive development. That's how I think that's how fans should approach it. But I know that's not how fandom works.
And it's going to be a lot harder now because, as I mentioned earlier, Barry Trotz coming into this season, the messaging has admittedly been different than it was last year. But because the messaging was so different last year, you are now walking back what you said, and you are now having to undo. You put so much pressure, so many expectations on this team last season, and they fell short of every single one of them miserably. And so now whatever happens, if it is just like, if it is even remotely short of success, like a true resounding success, fans are going to be pissed off. Fans are going to be mad because they're going to look at it as a failure. Because look, you're talking about the young kids getting experience, whatever, but you still have Steven Stamkos, you still have Jonathan Marchessault, you still have Forsberg and Yossi and all those guys. So it's not like you're coming in here like the San Jose Sharks and saying like, hey, we're just going to put the kids out there. We're going to have some fun. We're going to see what happens. That's when it's okay. But right now, it's like you can't make winning now a priority while also making the kids a priority. You
maybe the
can
kids
do
are just
both.
that. Maybe the kids are just that good, Emma. Why are you
They're
such a
not.
hater? Why are you such a hater? No, I think
Damn kids.
that
I'm
now you
old. That's
now
why.
you sound like an old person. I do think that is absolutely what's going to happen after the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about
Well,
that
it should.
last episode. I think that's what's going to happen after the trade deadline. And this is another question here. I know Lop and Kevin are going back and forth about who is higher on the center depth chart than arguably Ryan O'Reilly than Brady Martin. And here's what I think is and this kind of gets us into Sinkers Beverages, by the way, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I think this gets us into like, what can we expect from the team itself? What do I want to see from the team that indicates that it is different, that it has changed, that Brunette has evolved and adapted, that the players are focused, and to me, it's about possession of the puck in your defensive zone. It's about exiting the defensive zone. It's about how do they move through the neutral zone and how do they attack on the forecheck. It's all very simple stuff, but I think it's stuff that I want to see from them. But at the end of the day, the O'Reilly, Martin, Forsberg line, you're not going to ask Brady Martin, I don't think, to go stand in front of the crease. So that's still Ryan O'Reilly's job. Like, it's still going to be, even though we're putting 1C next to Brady Martin, which might just be straight up trolling all of the people who thought Brady Martin was a third line winger when they drafted him, which again is not good hockey strategy to be trolling Twitter with your lineup. So conspiracy theory hat on my head now. O'Reilly's still going to play a lot of the role that O'Reilly normally plays. They're not going to change. Like, when the shift is happening, it's not like Brady Martin is doing the Ryan O'Reilly role. Like, Ryan O'Reilly's going to be Ryan O'Reilly. So I don't think it's as gaudy a change as it feels like. They're just putting a young kid between two really good veteran players, and they're going to see what happens. And I think fans have a right to be excited about that. Because if he does, on the off chance, Emma, on the off chance that he does deliver on being the fifth pick, on being a Scott Hartnell type of player who is prepared and ready to kind of be a professional, who, even if he struggles, that's just such an exciting thing for fans to grab onto.
And that's great. If that's what happens, that's great. But I don't think it will. I'm not saying, and look, however Brady Martin does in these first 9 or however many games, I don't at all think that that's going to dictate his value overall to this organization, his impact overall on the organization. I'm not saying that like, well, if he fails his tryout, then he was a bust of a pick. Like, I'm not saying that, but I just don't think you need him in there right now when you're Barry Trotz and you have guys like Elliot Friedman, who doesn't just say things unless he's heard them somewhere, saying like, oh, Barry Trotz is really keen on making sure we all know that last year wasn't a fluke, or that last year was a fluke, that he's very keen on making sure that last year doesn't happen again, proving that he was right to bring these veterans in. And that's why he was going on this long with Evangelista, apparently. I don't know. But the point is, I think that pick one. What do you want to do right now? Like, again, you can still have the young players in there. Again, yeah, put Kemmel out there, put Weisblatt out there. That's great. Put them out there with Stamkos and Marchessault. That's fine. But I don't think you need to put Martin out there right now.
Well, but I mean, I guess I totally know what you're saying, but why is Martin any different than those other guys? And none of them had top 5 pedigree. Yes, they've played more hockey, but like, they weren't top 5 good, and Martin was. So why would 1 extra year, 2 extra years of AHL hockey or 1 year of KHL hockey. Like, why is that better? Why is he not one of them to be included? Because the thing, and again, this is what my brain goes to. Like, I feel like the February roster should be like really exciting. Like,
Well, because
I think that all those names, include Molendyk in there. Maybe David Edstrom is up. Maybe there's other, Schaefer could be up. There's other players that could also win their way and play their way into the lineup as well, especially like Lop says, which is, I'm okay with Martin being 1C the whole season, but you better ship off Stamkos, Marchessault because you aren't winning anything. I don't think it doesn't have to be one or the other, but I do think at the deadline, if you're out of it and you're going young, you have to look to move pieces that probably want to contend for a championship somewhere else.
So back to your original question. What makes these kids different? Well, a few things. They've been in the organization longer. They've been able to learn strategy, learn systems longer. They are older. They are more physically developed, and they have played in the AHL, which is the second best league in the world. So again, I am not saying that Martin is absolutely 100% not ready. We won't know that until we see him play. Quite frankly, we won't know. So
Right.
I'm not saying that he's not ready. I'm just saying that you don't need him right now. I see so many arguments of like, well, what does he have left to prove? I'm sorry, but like you can make that argument about guys like Gavin McKenna, for example. Like, what more does he have to prove? Brady Martin still has things to work on. He needs to work on his speed. He needs to work on his puck handling. He needs to work on staying out of the penalty box. Like, all of those things are things that you want to work on, not in the NHL. I mean, John Hines used to say it all the time. The NHL is not a development league. So again, all these people who are so like, well, he's a top 5 pick, so clearly he belongs in the NHL. No, like it is a little
I
bit
am not
like,
saying that, by the way.
no, you're not, but a lot of people are. And I think it's just a lot of, it's just a lot of just, you're talking about don't put pressure on this kid, don't put expectations on him. But by putting him in the lineup this early and in this position, you're already putting a ton of pressure and expectations on him, whether you want to or not. The fans are not going to be happy regardless of what happens at this point. So I think it would have been smarter to just send him back to junior.
Maybe I'm just so much older now. Maybe I'm like getting so old that I'm through the old looking glass, because like now I'm just like, oh, I'm just so excited about everything. Like, because you're like Preds fans that aren't going to be happy with anything, and I'm like, I'm excited about all of it because I don't have any expectations on this team. And again, I'm not saying that as like a fan here. I'm just saying like I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I don't think they have a playoff roster, but I don't think that's necessarily the way we should judge the team this year. It's about progress. It's about growth. It's about making more moves to set this organization up for the future. It's about finding out if Andrew Brunette's the right guy, if Barry Trotz is the right guy, if Brady Martin is good enough, if Tanner Molendyk is going to be the star that I think he should be on the team in the future. It's all these young players. They're going to have 11 first-round draft picks on opening night on their team. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I haven't looked it all up every single year of the Preds organization, but I cannot imagine they've had more than 11 first-round picks on an opening night roster. And with like half of them being homegrown and on their own, from their own farm system. I don't know. I think it's okay to just be like, maybe I'm in media brain now and not fan brain. I don't know.
I think the label first round pick gets tossed around a little too liberally. Not saying that it's not factually true, but Michael McCarron was a first round pick. Austin Watson was a first round pick. Like, can we stop acting like first round pick means like Tyson Jost was a first round pick? Again, I'm not trying to shit on all these guys, but I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily mean anything until we actually see first round pick level results.
No, of course not. I'm just saying it's pedigree that this organization doesn't normally have, and that doesn't include Zach LaRue, that doesn't include Tanner Molendyk, and it doesn't include Reed Schaefer. So in theory, you could be up to 14 first round picks very, very quickly. And again, I'm not saying that because it means they're stars. or that they have already been stars or will be stars. It's just about sort of pointing out the amount of talent and pedigree that they have collected, and that there's, again, like going to get Cody Glass as a top 10 pick. We all knew that wasn't actually a top 10 pick when they got him, right? Like that's not, he had already proven that he wasn't exactly going to be that player. But there's a pedigree there, and there's talent there. There's upside. There's things you can work with. For Yost and McCarron, they're like in their 30s or whatever. Like that's different. Like they're like fully formed. They are who they are.
But I'm saying if you're including them in the count, the body count of how many first round picks there are, then I think it's just important to add that little qualifier.
Sure. Stamkos, Shea, Yost, Forsberg, McCarron are the veterans. And then you have Justin Barron. You have Kemmel, Martin, Wood, Svechkov, Weisblatt, and that doesn't include LaRue, Molendijk, Schaefer. And, of course, Evangelista, 23 years old, 42nd overall pick, so very close to being a first-round pick, but not including him. I just think if you look at the overall pedigree and the overall upside, the amount of sort of talent that either was drafted or acquired as a prospect, which would include players like Ozzy Weisblatt, right? The Stasby and Stasny and Wilsby. I just combined Wilsby and Stasby.
I wasn't going to say it, but
Wilsby and Stasny are both homegrown prospects that were drafted and developed and have shown promise and talent. So I'm just saying, like, there's reasons for fans to look at this and go like, hey, let's see what the veterans can do. But you know what I really am excited about is what the roster could look like in February and March. And I think that's the way I would approach the season as a fan, from an expectation standpoint, from a prediction standpoint. And whatever Brady Martin gives you is like totally house money. And if on the off chance he ends up surviving and sticking around, that's one of the biggest developments in franchise history. And so it's still a huge story. I have a feeling that we're going to get to like game 5 and it's going to start to catch up with him a little bit. Like the game's going to be like, oh, these are 29-year-old millionaires who've been training for a decade at this. Let's go. So Lop says, Braden, why wait till February? Isn't the deadline around then? I just think they're going to start moving pieces in January. That would be my. That would be my.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying that I think most fans will not approach the season the way you are. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. All right.
People like to be angry. They like to make themselves angry for some reason.
Yes, there you go. Sinkers Beverages, of course, liquor store of the year, 4-time liquor store of the year in Middle Tennessee. Although I think the best of Nashville scene comes out this week, so we'll find out if they win any more awards. Shotgun Willie's also has won an award for best brisket in the city, best barbecue in the city from the national scene best of. So stay tuned for all of that, and make sure you go join the in crowd at Sinkers Beverages. Their sister store, Bluegrass Beverages, is up in Hendersonville. They have been serving the community for over 50 years. And Sinkers over 40 years in East Nashville. So almost 100 years of providing service, locally owned and operated here in Nashville and in Middle Tennessee as well. So make sure you go support good local businesses. All right, I want some official predictions on the Central Division. Who you got winning the division?
Dallas.
One word. Are you going to do one word answers for the whole segment? Because that's.
You didn't ask me. What you asked me?
You're on a podcast. Why do you like the Dallas Stars to win the division?
I think the Dallas Stars are going to win the division because they are a very well-constructed, very deep team. They had just been missing that superstar piece, which they got last year in Mikko Rantanen. Now they're going to get a full season with him. I think they're going to be much better without Pete DeBoer. I think Pete DeBoer is one of those coaches who has a very short shelf life everywhere he goes, and his whole like kind of Peter Laviolette-esque act, it wears thin after a few years. And so I think that everything I've heard from inside that organization, I think that the new coaching staff, new leadership is going to work really well there. And I think that they've been on the cusp for a while. So if they can stay healthy, then I think that it's going to be Dallas. Is that a long enough answer for you?
That's an excellent answer. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. that was the point. All right. Who makes the playoffs in the Central Division?
Dallas, Colorado, We got to go Winnipeg, but I don't think Winnipeg's going to be as dominant as they were last year. I think Minnesota has to make it. I don't know. I am going to
$17
be
million
so
and $17 million a year says they need to.
basically, it's like you better at least make the damn playoffs this year. Like no one's saying they're going to win the cup this year, but you better at least make the postseason for.
Okay, so you got Dallas 1, Colorado 2, Winnipeg 3, Minnesota 4, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. No other wild card teams?
No.
Okay. All right.
I think Utah is going to be close, but I think they're going to just fall short.
Okay.
That's my other prediction.
So that leaves St. Louis, Nashville, and Chicago at the bottom of the division. What order do they finish in?
Probably that order. I could maybe see them flip-flopping with St. Louis, maybe. I don't see them being worse than Chicago, them being Nashville or St. Louis. I don't see any of them being worse than Chicago.
How long do you Preds fans want to be like Chicago? You Preds fans who want to be in a totally, in a total deep rebuild. How comfortable are you being last place for like 4 straight seasons? Because they weren't last place last year. the Preds, I mean, meaning their rebuild. If you think last year started it, which is fine to think.
Listen, I have been saying this for years. Everyone who's begging for a rebuild, fine, but know what you're asking for. And if you're Chicago, and see the thing with Chicago, at the very least, this is a small tangent. I think that they at least have the memories and, sort of that the pillars put in place by the dynasty, the Patrick Kane and the Taves, the Stanley Cup dynasty. I think they have that to sort of rest on for now until they get their next dynasty. Nashville doesn't have that. They don't have any cups. They don't have any kind of like previous laurels that they can rest on right now. So I think all of the Nashville fans who are like, let's just do this, like tear it all down. It's like, okay, that's going to make this even more miserable because you don't have anything to like, yes, remember the good times? Because like, relatively speaking, there were none.
Right.
So
Chicago's over under, by the way, I just looked this up, 67.5. I feel like that's more points than they've had any of the last couple of years. Colorado's over under is 103.5. That's a lot of points. Let's see here. As I'm doing this all in real time. Hang with me. I'm still scrolling here. Winnipeg over under 97.5. I would take the over on that. I don't know what about you. Minnesota 95.5 over under total points. How do you feel about either of those numbers?
I'd take the over on Winnipeg for sure.
Okay. St. Louis is 92.5 over under.
That's hard. Maybe take a slight under. I don't know.
Nashville has, so Vegas odds say that the betting total that will split the public on the Nashville Predators, 68 points last year, is a 16-point improvement to 84.5 points. Are you taking the over or the under on 84.5 points? Because that would be like 8, 9, 10 more wins. So you go to like 40 wins. Basically.
I'll take the over. I'll take the over.
I would take the over on 84.5.
Yeah.
As well.
I don't think it's going to be really far over, but I'd take the over.
I think the wild card team in the entire division is Utah.
Yeah.
Like I could see Utah finishing second or third. Like just
I think Utah's going to be really good.
I tend to agree with you. So they're at 92.5, tied with St. Louis. I would take the over on Utah. I wouldn't touch St. Louis. Minnesota's 95.5. I wouldn't touch that. I like the over on 97.5 for Winnipeg. I like the over on 84.5 for Nashville. 67.5 is an over-under total for Chicago. That is pathetic. Wow. All right. I'll take the Predators to finish 5th or 6th. I think they might tie for 5th, but I think it's 5th or 6th. And I think Utah's 4th. So I'm going to go Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg, Utah. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think it's Minnesota, Nashville, and St. Louis competing for that fifth spot, I think. And I would lean Minnesota in that group. But you're the NHL expert, so.
No, I would lean Minnesota if Minnesota can stay healthy. Because they had a lot of injury. Last year, Minnesota and St. Louis last year had they flip-flopped seasons. Like Minnesota front-loaded. They had a really strong start, and then Kaprizov got hurt, and then like Spurgeon got hurt, and Eriksson Ek got hurt. They had a lot of guys who were out, so they like stumbled into the playoffs because they had banked so many points early in the year. St. Louis, of course, had the complete opposite. They went on that surge in the second half. So I think both of those teams are kind of wild cards right now. I would say St. Louis is more of a wild card than Minnesota is. If Minnesota can stay healthy, I think they are a better team than St. Louis is. But
okay,
I think just kind of like both of these teams are going to be interesting to watch to see like which version shows up this year, and that could help determine what happens in the Central. And then, like you said, Utah, I think, is going to be really, really good this year. Nashville, I think, is going to be better than they were last year. So there's a lot of, there could be a lot of movement in the division.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's challenging Dallas and Colorado at the top, but I do think there can be a lot of movement this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've got Ek and Kaprizov on the fantasy squad this year, so I really need them to stay healthy. Obviously, you Preds fans don't agree with that, and I understand. But we'll call it the emotional hedge, is what we'll call it in fantasy sports. All right, Emma, what kind of coverage can people expect from you throughout the course of the year if they want to get involved in sort of the entire NHL picture and follow all your work? Give us all what you're doing this year.
So you can hear me yapping about the rest of the NHL over on the wraparound at the Hockey News. This week we're starting, it's every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the hockey season. So we're just going to be chatting about all the latest and greatest from around the league in little bite-sized portions. Then I will be doing some guest appearances on the Fansided Network, writing about various NHL teams. I've done a little bit of everything over there, so might be seeing me pop in here and there.
Okay. Also, make sure you check out Lower Broad Hockey. I've got a total roundtable by the staff coming out tomorrow morning on Thursday for all of your kind of written predictions. In written form from Emma and Adam and Nick and Gover and myself. So make sure you check that out. I'm working on a story about the youth movement and beer in the NHL. It's my favorite topic. So make sure you check that out. And Adam and I will be back on the Gold Standard sort of extra subscriber pod every other week, at least, if not every week, coming up this season as well. So lots of stuff going on. Keezer's going to be writing. He's going to be covering the first two games for you as I take my wonderful bride on a vacation next week. It wasn't our choice to go during the first week of the NHL season. It was Metro Nashville Public Schools that made us do it. It was forced family vacation. So I will talk to you guys soon. But otherwise, I think Adam and I are going to have something for you guys right after the first game. So we'll just have 60 minutes of Brady Martin hockey to argue about. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Emma, thank you for hanging out. Always a pleasure to see you. Have a great first weekend of NHL hockey. Set your lineups in the fantasy league, of course, please. That's to you too, Emma, and to everybody else watching and listening. 5 stars on the podcast app. Please thumbs up on the YouTube page. Lots of great content over there as it pertains to the Titans, to the SEC, to all kinds of stuff. So we got you covered. Pred shows over there, Gold Standard. This one's over there as well. So thanks to Emma. I'm Braden. Thanks for listening and hanging out. All you guys in the comments, you're wonderful. It's awesome. Let's have a great season. Let's have a good time. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.